Recorded Books and RB Digital present Deadly News, A Britton Bay Mystery by Jody, Holford. Narrated by Libby McKnight. Chapter 1. Fated or not, Molly Owens was rethinking her decision to plant roots in the seaside town of Britton Bay, or at least accepting the job as editor of the town's small, failing newspaper. The name of the little city by the ocean had called to her, but, at the moment, tension pumped through the room like a stereo with too much bass as Alan Benedict introduced her to his staff of 4. All eyes were on her, making her stomach clench in tight spasms. At least Alan's voice was steady and kind. Molly has a double degree in journalism and literature. She's a remote editor for several large-scale magazines and has even worked with a couple of publishing houses as a freelance editor. We're very lucky she's agreed to join the Britton Bay Bulletin. As you all know, I've been spread a little thin lately, and Molly is going to be my right hand. Welcome again, Elizabeth Grover said, a tight smile on her unpainted lips. They'd met when Molly had arrived this morning. Elizabeth was probably in her 50s, and Molly knew she wrote most of the small pieces for the online and print versions of the paper. After accepting the position via email and phone interviews, Molly had done a bit of research on both the staff and the paper. Elizabeth was somewhat reserved, even though she'd been nothing but polite. The young man seated to Elizabeth's right gave a different kind of smile, one Molly didn't want to dwell on for too long. The kind that most people, women especially, would look away from. Molly held his gaze, unwilling to show discomfort. From the corner of his upturned lips, a dark blue pen cap was sticking out. He pulled it out to speak. "Nice to meet you," he said, running a hand through his blonde, slightly shaggy hair. "I'm Clay. I'm only here part-time. I do some of the photography and the social media. What there is of it, anyway." Laughing like he'd shared a joke, Clay put the cap back in his mouth, a plastic toothpick. Molly nodded and locked eyes with the man to Clay's left. It was his scowling face that suppressed any joy she might have felt over a position she'd been excited to take. She almost preferred the lecherous grin of the younger man to the simmering anger burning in this man's eyes. "You want to introduce yourself, Vernon?" Alan asked, sending Molly an apologetic look. She tried to smile reassuringly, but nerves zipped through her stomach like horses on a racetrack. "Breathe. You're meant to be here." When he said nothing, she filled in the silence. "I've read several of your articles, Vernon. You've got a great knack for headlines," Molly said, hoping her olive branch wouldn't be whacked down with a chainsaw. The older man, who looked a little like an unfriendly Albert Einstein, with white tufts of hair growing from either side of his head like rainbows over his ears, snorted derisively. He looked up from the furious spirals he was drawing with a black pen on a bright yellow post-it note. "Well, gee, thanks. Means a lot coming from someone your age. What are you, 20? Molly curled her fingers together on top of the long mahogany table. Like the paper, she bet that in its glory days it had been a thing of beauty. Now it was weathered and scarred, marks creating a map of lines over the once glossy surface. She wasn't sure what had happened to the newspaper or the table, but clearly someone hadn't cared for it in the way they needed to. Though Vernon might not realize it, and definitely didn't want to acknowledge it, she was the person to bring it back to its former glory. Molly straightened her shoulders and didn't shy away from his eye contact. "I'm 28, actually. I understand you're all a bit of a family already, and I'm just hoping I can find my place here. I look forward to working with each of you." She turned to the last person at the table, a teenage girl.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.